What happens when a simple disturbance call turns a descent into a place that should have never been entered in the first place? It reaches drops you into a role of a police officer who responds to what seems like a routine call at an abandoned facility, but what starts out as a standard procedure quickly unravels into something far more disturbing. As you find yourself trapped inside a descending nightmare that offers no easy way out, excuse me. What follows is a slow pressure cooking experience built around survival, limited resources, and a constant sense of being watched. The further you push into the building, the clearer it becomes that this place was never meant to function like a normal medical facility. And once you realize that, it's already too late to turn back. So with that being said, let's break it down. The story in It Reaches follows an officer by the name of Jason Thompson who responds to a disturbance call at an abandoned hospital that was supposed to be shut down a long time ago. What begins as a standard investigation quickly falls apart when he discovers that the building is not only still operational in strange ways, but also hiding something far more sinister beneath the surface. Once inside, Thompson finds himself trapped with no clear exit, forced to descend through various levels of the facility. Each floor reveals more about what this place really was and why it was abandoned in the first place. What once looked like a simple hospital turns into a network of disturbing corridors locked in sections, a subterranean areas filled with evidence of illegal and morally questionable experimentation. As the investigation continues, it becomes clear that the hospital was involved in medical practices that were never meant to be discovered. Files, notes, and environmental clues suggest a cover-up that goes far beyond a simple internal incident, pointing towards something organized, systematic, and internally hidden from the outside world. All the while, Thompson is not alone. Something is moving through the building with him, an entity that does not follow normal rules of behavior, and which seems to hunt based on sound, movement, and presence. The constant threat forces you into a stealth-heavy playstyle where every footstep matters and every decision can either keep you alive or end your run instantly. By the time the full truth starts to come together, it's less about what the hospital was and more about what it became. The presentation in It Reaches is a mix of strong atmosphere and noticeable technical imperfections, with the game clearly prioritizing mood over polish in certain areas. Visually, the hospital setting is the highlight. The environment design does a good job of selling a cold, abandoned, and clinically disturbing space. Dim lighting, long corridors, and harsh shadows help create a constant sense of unease, while the weapon and interior design contribute to the game's gritty horror identity. Sound design is one of the more constant strengths. Gunshots, footsteps, and environmental audio are clearly defined, and this clearly actually helps build tension during stealth sections where listening is just as important as seeing. The music takes a more subtle approach, relying on low, suspenseful tones rather than traditional horror stings. This helps maintain a constant undercurrent of dread without constantly interrupting the flow of gameplay. On PlayStation 5, performance is genuinely stable at 60 frames per second, which helps the game feel smooth during exploration and chase sequences. However, there are still moments where minor frame drops and micro stuttering can disrupt the immersion, especially during high tension scenes. Overall, the presentation works best when it leans into atmosphere, even if it doesn't always maintain perfect technical consistency. The gameplay in It Reaches is built around survival horror fundamentals with a strong emphasis on stealth, resource management, and environmental awareness. One of the most defined elements is the body cam perspective. This limited viewpoint greatly restricts visibility, forcing you to rely on sound and cautious movements rather than full information. It creates a constant sense of uncertainty, especially in dark or narrow spaces where threats can appear without warning. Another core mechanic is the breath holding system. When hiding from the entity, you can hold your breath to avoid detection, but doing so too long creates panic and eventually forces a gasp that can reveal your position. This system adds a layer of control, and pressure during stealth sequences, even if it doesn't always stay central throughout the whole entire game. Resource management is also crucial. Ammo and supplies are limited, so every encounter becomes a decision point. Fighting is risky, but running is not always safe either, which forces constant evaluation of your options. Throughout the experience, you also gather upgrade materials that allow you to improve your weapons over time. These upgrades become important later on, as enemies become more dangerous and encounters increase the intensity. The combination of these systems create a loop that is designed to keep you on edge at all times, with very little room for comfort or relaxation. Despite its strong atmosphere and concept, It Reaches have several issues that holds it back from feeling fully refined. One of the most noticeable problems is clunky controls and occasional technical jank. Movements can feel slightly unresponsive in tight moments, and the inventory system isn't always smooth to navigate when you are under pressure. There are also occasional bugs, including checkpoint issues and moments where the player, like myself, can get caught on geometry, forcing reloads that break the flow of progression. Performance is mostly stable but not perfect. Small frame drops and micro stuttering can occur during busy and high intensity sequences, which can undercut the atmosphere when it matters most. The narrative structure is also a point of concern. The game is relatively short, lasting only a few hours, which means the story does not always get enough time to fully develop its more interesting ideas before it concludes. Some mechanics like the breath-holding system also feels underutilized over time. What starts as a strong stealth concept eventually becomes less impactful as encounters stop relying on it as heavily as expected. Finally, the puzzle design can feel repetitive, relying on familiar survival horror structures without introducing many new twists or memorable variations. Overall, these issues don't ruin the experience, but they do prevent it from reaching its full potential. It Reaches is a short but atmospheric survival horror experience that does a good job of building tension through presentation, sound design, and constant pressure. However, technical jank, short length, and some underdeveloped mechanics hold it back from feeling like a fully polished experience. It's far from perfect, but it does deliver a compelling and intense horror loop while it lasts. For that, I give It Reaches a 3 out of 5. Thank you for tuning into the Gamer Section, your home for independent gaming reviews, impressions, and coverage. If you enjoyed this review, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more gaming content just like this.